Welcome to today's edition of the IntoTexas AI podcast. It's your look at AI news and trends impacting Texas. I'm your host, Shannon Ballou. Let's get started. A mixed message on the state of jobs in the U.S. Just days before the Bureau of Labor Statistics released its jobs report for March, showing increases of 178,000 jobs, Oracle turned rumor into reality for thousands of employees. On March 31st, the global tech giant confirmed a substantial round of layoffs, part of a broader restructuring tied to its accelerating push into artificial intelligence and cloud infrastructure. While Oracle isn't disclosing exactly how many were laid off publicly yet, initial reports do indicate that the cuts may total 30,000 and hit multiple business units, impacting roles tied to legacy systems, SaaS operations, sales, and customer success. To be fair, though, the cuts do extend beyond the U.S., with, again, initial indicators showing that India got hit substantially with the layoffs as well. Even so, the news impacts Texas, especially Austin. Austin has long been one of Oracle's major hubs. After all, the company in December of 2020 rattled some cages by announcing that it was shifting its headquarters from the Silicon Valley to Austin. So when Oracle makes cuts, Austin is going to feel it. But Oracle isn't the first company to cut jobs to fund AI investments, and it certainly won't be the last. The decision, though, highlights an ongoing conversation. How will leadership be held accountable for results when there are no more jobs left to cut? Let's dive in. What's really happening? What we're seeing is a fundamental shift in how companies allocate capital. AI isn't just another line item, it is becoming the line item. And to fund it, companies are making trade-offs. They're cutting redundant operational roles, legacy product teams, and middle layers of management, all to reinvest in AI infrastructure, data engineering, and cloud capacity. So for Oracle, a company burdened by substantial debt, an 18% cut in its workforce is expected to free up approximately $8 to $10 billion annually, according to TD Cowen. Now, that money will get pumped right back into its AI data centers. But look, Oracle is far from alone here, right? Across tech and increasingly outside of tech, companies are reshaping their workforce to fund AI transformation. The new mantra for enterprises seems to be efficiency funds intelligence. And in many cases, that efficiency equates to headcount reductions. The Austin impact. So what does this mean for Austin? Well, again, it's been a huge beneficiary of tech migration over the past decade, and not just from Oracle, but also companies like Tesla and Apple and Amazon, all building major footprints there. But this moment does introduce kind of a new dynamic for the community. It's no longer just growing, it's evolving. So how does the city, once dubbed as Silicon Hills, absorb a blow of major job cuts from Oracle? All right, well, first, we haven't seen numbers confirming the impact of the Texas workforce. The company did apparently file official WARN Act notices in Texas and 5 other states, but exact totals for the layoff is still unknown. So given the type of jobs, though, that Oracle cut and the types of roles that we know are based in the Austin area, some estimates put that close to 30% reduction for those units impacted, which include NetSuite, which is based in the Austin campus. But again, this is all still speculation. If it does prove out, that could mean roughly 1,000 more jobs that are lost in the Austin community. Now, keep in mind, though, Oracle isn't Austin's biggest employer. As of early this year, 2026, Tesla remained the largest tech employer with over 21,000 employees. And that was before Elon Musk's recent announcement for the Terafab project. And we can't forget Apple, again, with 11,000 employees, and Amazon with more than 10,000 employees, not to mention the homegrown tech leader Dell with 7,000 and then some employees, and even IBM with around 6,000 employees. So, again, compare that to Oracle's previously estimated 3,000 to 4,000 jobs that are based in its Austin campus. And that number of that are laid off doesn't seem quite as significant. Now, that said, for those employees let go, it's absolutely a big deal. And 1,000 lost jobs will have a ripple effect on the local economy with an impact to food, retail, services, and even the housing industry. There are also other outcomes from this that we're likely to see in the Austin area. Things such as maybe some short term pressure on tech employment, increased competition for AI skilled roles, and then, like everywhere, a widening gap between legacy tech workers and AI native talent. But even with these negative impacts, you have to also look at the other side and say at the same time, this does create opportunity because the same forces that are driving those layoffs, as we said, they're also driving investment, particularly in AI infrastructure and data centers, which we know are found across Texas and in Abilene. So while some of that may move out of Austin directly, it still gets the benefit inside of Texas as a whole. So while some roles disappear, there are also entirely new categories of jobs emerging. So again, some losses, but some potential gains as well. The bigger question. I think this brings us to an important discussion regarding organizational restructuring, funding, and accountability in the AI era. During a recent AI conference that I attended in Dallas, many of the keynotes, the panel discussions, even the offline conversations across all of us attendees, it really directly and indirectly hit on this topic, which enterprise leaders don't seem to be focusing on the right thing yet. They're not asking the right questions when they talk about AI in the organization. And this really came up in one of the panel sessions where they were talking about, for companies who are feeling that pressure and the urgency to accelerate, not only adopt, but accelerate the use of AI and AI tools, they're tending to think the wrong way. They're again saying, how much can I cut in the organization? That means, people resources to pay for this AI tech investment. And instead, maybe the questions that they should be asking is, what is the outcome that we need as a business? And how much are we willing to pay to get a return and accelerate output? This conversation that I'm talking about specifically came during a session from Jeff Wang, who is CEO of Windsurf, now part of Cognition, which is an agent lab. And then this was, again, his discussion with another panelist, Chris Gustafson from Okta. And they were just talking about the next frontier of coding agents. But again, it all wraps back under that umbrella of funding, investment, and your AI strategy as a company. And I think that's why earlier today I read an article from Forbes that's just out by Julie Averill, and it's titled "The One AI Question Boards Should Stop Asking Their CEOs." Well, first of all, the title got me right off, but I love the article. If you haven't read it, we'll put it in the notes, the link in the notes. But the argument is basically that to move the focus to business outcomes and away from AI tools and operating kind of in a vacuum within the organization. So what the Averill was saying is that the boards are just asking the wrong question of their CEO. The conversation tends to be built around the question, what's our AI strategy as an organization? Now, I still think that's the right conversation, but Averill has a good point in that maybe they need to evolve that question to something a bit more specific, which is, how is AI fundamentally changing our business model, and what are we willing to give up to fund it? Again, similar conversations we're seeing everywhere, right? But then the article goes on to say that the follow-up question can also become, and quote, what combination of process changes, organization redesign, and technology, including AI, gets us there to those outcomes we've identified that are important to the organization. In this way, AI becomes less of an isolated agenda item and is really integrated across the holistic business strategy, including capital allocation. So, business leaders can then be held accountable for those business outcomes versus specific AI tool adoption and implementation. So, I think the question is this what we're seeing with Oracle? Is this move to reduce jobs? Is it a pathway to fund AI infrastructure investments in a very vacuum, compartmentalized type of approach? Or is it part of a larger business strategy that will truly drive meaningful long-term results? As always, time will tell. What leaders should take away? So while we're waiting to see what those results look like for Oracle in the bigger picture, what do we as leaders need to understand right now? Well, first of all, this isn't about experimentation anymore. It's about reallocation and results. AI is absolutely forcing hard decisions. What parts of the business still matter? What becomes automated? And where do we double down? The uncomfortable truth for all of us is AI investment is disruptive. And if you're a business leader, an employee, there are going to be disruptions. But here's a few, I think, important takeaways for business leaders today. Number one, AI funding will have to come from somewhere, and it may be within your team's org chart. So if you're not proactively reallocating resources, you're probably already behind. Two, talent strategy is now about AI strategy. So the gap between AI capable teams and everyone else is widening fast. And then three, this is a transition moment, not a temporary cycle. So what's happening in Austin today, we're already seeing play out across most major markets, especially those with tech-heavy investments, and it's going to continue. So look, Oracle's layoffs, they're not about only cost cutting. They're about repositioning for an AI-first future. And Austin is on the front lines where that shift is happening in real time. And it's probably going to come your way next. So that's it for today's episode of the IntoTexas AI podcast. I'm Shannon Ballou. If you want more insights into how AI is reshaping Texas, please subscribe, share, and we'll see you next time.